Okay, so we're going to go ahead and finish up our video. We've gotten to our calculation of our z's. We're now going to move on to our standard error. Now there's one little mistake that's in the textbook. This is the standard error of my model, 3.9 billion. But this is based on an annual volatility or annual risk, an annual standard deviation. And we need to convert that to a quarterly standard deviation. I don't expect each one of my quarters to have as much error as I have for the entire year. So in order to do that, all we're going to do is take the annual volatility from our model and divide it by the square root of 4. And that's going to give us my quarterly risk, my quarterly error of the estimate. And then to calculate the standard error, I'm just going to type the equation here at the top. It's going to be equal to, we'll come over to our and select our quarterly forecast or quarterly error. We hit F4, and then we're going to multiply that by, and we'll come back to our SSI model. We want to get this, or it automatically adds in this SSI model. Bang, I'm going to take that out, and we want to SQRT, the square root of 1 plus 1 divided by the number of observations that I have of quarterly data, which is right down here at the end, 34. So I'll just put 34 in. And we're going to add that to our z minus zm, and then we're going to square it. It's the caret 2, and we're going to divide that by the sum square of all of my z's. And we hit F4 so that that stays constant. We don't want that to move as we drag it down. End it with a parenthesis, and then one more. You notice the little black highlights so that we're sure we have our brackets all set. And hit return. So that becomes our standard error, and then we can go ahead and drag that down to generate the equation. Next thing is our low limit and high limit. I've got my student error here. And for this we need to know our degrees of freedom. And I just want to show you where that's coming from. Number of observations 34, and I got to subtract 5 because I'm actually using 5 parameters in the estimate. Where do those 5 parameters come from? Well, here's my sales model, and I have XB, XA, X, and intercept. Even though XA is not being used in this model because all my interactive dummies are 0 here, we still used it, we estimated our model using that calculation. So that it's important to include that. And then we're taking our 1, 2, 3, 4 parameter estimates, and we're multiplying it by our SSI, which is the 5th parameter that we're using. That's why it's going to be 34 minus 5. And then our 0.2 is a 20% probability outside, so that's 80% probability inside. Gives us our 80% confidence interval. So to get our low limit, it is our forecast minus B39 is the student T number, multiplied by the standard error for that particular quarter. And then again, the high limit is basically the same equation. We're going to take our forecast and we're going to add to it our student T times the standard error for the period. So that's going to generate our high and our low limits. And I don't remember if I mentioned it in the last video, but again, my model here says then I'm going to have some air at the beginning, and I'm going to have some air at the end, but the overall trend line is fitting the most recent data as we come through here, and we're incorporating kind of a dual trend that's going on. So again, it's a low sales environment, low sales growth versus a higher sales growth. So we want to take more standard error here in order to get a better fit for the way that, just personal feeling, the way sales are likely to grow in the future. And I validated that, as I mentioned before, with my two out-of-sample periods, forecast of 59.61, actuals of 57.62. So we're kind of running right along the line, one high, one low, which is good. When I come back to my seasonal forecast, there's a lot of air here at the beginning, and that's because of those first couple of points that are off my estimate line. It decreases, it gets really low in the middle as we cross. It increases again as we get to the points at the end, and it flattens out very nicely right in the forecast area that I'm going to expand into the future. And of course, part of your project is going to be to expand this for 2012 and 2013 sales data, or you're going to test your forecast against the 2012-2013 sales data, quarterly sales data, of course. All right, so the last thing that we're going to do here, we got our high and low, is just this is just a little helper, giving you an idea how you're doing. It's a simple if statement, if, and then parenthesis, or, and the way you would read this is that if J3, which is the quarterly sales data, is less than the low limit, or J3, the quarterly sales data, is greater than the high limit, both of those are true. If either of one of those are true, then we want to type in yes. If both of these are false, then we just want 3 lines, 3 dash marks. So you'll type that one in, and we'll go ahead and drag it down. Now in the textbook, particularly figure 6.2, figure 6.1, which is our sales forecast model. There's some extra information that's down here. I want you to go ahead and incorporate that into yours. I'm not doing it now because, as I mentioned, I'm having a few problems with my EasyVid. And then the next section goes over how to refine this model a little bit more. I'm not requiring you to do that, but I do want to point out one issue. Because we're dividing our actual quarterly sales by our forecast quarterly sales, if we sum up, I'm just going to do this equals the sum, and I'll highlight these 4 quarters, you'll notice that it's not equal to 1, and that's because of this sales forecast issue, that we're using a forecast rather than the actual sales numbers. The next section actually goes over how to correct some of these minor statistical issues. I'm not worried about it. This is going to be your first step, and I just want to highlight what your actual quarterly forecast model is. It is a combination of your annual sales model, which is right here, and these averages that are repeated out. So your total model is the 4 averages, 1 for each quarter, and your annual sales forecast. So that's the basic process of the SSI methodology. The next set of videos, and there'll probably be more than one, are going to go over how to do the moving average computation. And very often what you'll end up doing is have a one model set up based on the moving average, another model set up based on this, and then just average the 2 guys together. And the more models you have, the more you average together. Hopefully you're taking the good things from the first model and the good things from the second model and averaging out all the bad ones. That's the hope. And again, just remember that the objective is to try and get a nice, efficient forecast. Thanks.